We often think of life as a battlefield between winners and losers, a balance sheet of gains and losses. Yet psychology suggests something far subtler. They are not rivals, but partners in an endless dance. Gain gives us the thrill of attachment. Loss teaches us the grace of release. Together, they form the pulse of human existence. When we chase success, love, or recognition, we are not just acquiring, we are also silently risking, preparing to let go. Western philosophy calls this the duality of possession. To hold something is to accept its eventual departure. We live in the tension between desire and impermanence, between holding and surrendering. The mind, ever hungry for more, believes in accumulation, but the soul, wiser and quieter, seeks balance. To understand life through this lens is to see that every moment of joy already carries the shadow of letting go, and that both are necessary for us to feel alive. In the Western mind, there's an old saying, everything we own owns a part of us. Every gain, no matter how beautiful, demands a price. When we fall in love, we give up fragments of solitude. When we pursue success, we trade pieces of peace. And when we chase ambition, we quietly sign away our rest. Modern psychology calls this the paradox of possession. The more we have, the more we fear losing it. A person may appear fulfilled, yet secretly live under the weight of what they've built. The truth is, nothing comes free. Even happiness costs energy to sustain. Freud once hinted that satisfaction is not born from having everything, but from learning what to relinquish. Perhaps that's why every moment of triumph carries a faint echo of tension, a whisper reminding us that gain and loss are never separate currencies, but two sides of the same human transaction. Sigmund Freud once observed, "Satisfaction is always purchased by renunciation." Behind this simple statement lies one of the deepest truths about the human psyche, that joy and sacrifice are inseparable. Every fulfillment we experience is built upon something we've given up: time, innocence, security, or comfort. The unconscious understands this trade even when the conscious mind resists it. Think of the artist who loses sleep for beauty, or the parent who surrenders freedom for love. These aren't losses to mourn, they are the quiet currencies through which meaning is paid. Freud believed that repression, not pain, is what poisons the soul. The refusal to accept that living requires giving up. To renounce is not to weaken, it is to mature. And in that maturity, we begin to see that the price of joy is not punishment, but participation in the fragile, fleeting beauty of being alive. Our minds are not fair judges of experience. According to Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman, the pain of losing something is at least twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining it. Neuroscience confirms this bias. When we lose money, status, or affection, the brain activates alarm systems stronger than those triggered by reward. It's as if evolution taught us to protect rather than to pursue. This imbalance, called loss aversion, once kept our ancestors alive. But today, it keeps many of us afraid. We hold on to relationships long past their meaning, cling to possessions we no longer use, and replay failures as if rehearsing survival. The modern self is often a collection of things we were too frightened to release. Yet, in understanding this bias, a doorway opens. Awareness can soften the sting. The more we see that the brain exaggerates loss, the freer we become to live beyond its fear. Most of our suffering does not come from what we lack, but from what we refuse to release. We cling to people who have walked away, to chances that have passed, to versions of ourselves that no longer exist. Psychologists describe this as attachment inertia, the emotional gravity that keeps us orbiting around memories long after their meaning has faded. We tell ourselves that letting go means forgetting, but in truth, it means remembering differently. The past does not dissolve when we release it, it transforms. The tighter we hold, the heavier life becomes. And yet, it's astonishing how the human heart can carry such invisible weight, entire years of what ifs and almosts. True healing begins not when we stop feeling, but when we stop clutching. Because freedom isn't found in acquiring more, but in daring to live with less, and to trust that what remains will be enough. Everything we gain eventually slips through our fingers. And that's not a flaw of life, but its design. Impermanence is what gives our moments their sharpness, their sweetness, their worth. Imagine if joy lasted forever. It would lose its shape, its urgency. We are moved precisely because we know it won't. Philosophers call this the paradox of gratitude. Only by realizing that nothing lasts do we begin to truly appreciate what is. When we fight impermanence, we suffer. When we accept it, we awaken. Each sunset, each friendship, each season of love carries a quiet reminder that meaning is born in transience. Life isn't about clinging to permanence. It's about learning to dance with time, to breathe in joy, knowing it will fade, and to breathe out sorrow, knowing it too will pass. In that rhythm, we find peace, not in control, but in surrender. In Western philosophy, there's a haunting yet liberating idea known as creative destruction. It means that for anything new to emerge, something old must die. It's the invisible law behind every evolution of nature, of art, of the self. The forest burns, and new life sprouts from ash. An outdated belief collapses, and a wiser one rises. In the same way, personal growth is never gentle. It requires dismantling the identities that once kept us safe. The career that once defined us, the love that once sustained us, even the dreams that once guided us, all must sometimes fall away for us to begin again. Pain, in this sense, is not the enemy of growth, but its architect. Destruction clears space for creation, just as endings clear space for beginnings. Every rebirth starts with a surrender, a willingness to let one version of ourselves vanish so another can breathe. In therapy, letting go is not a poetic metaphor, it's a psychological necessity. Healing begins when we stop defending the version of ourselves that is afraid of pain. The safe self clings to control, avoids uncertainty, and fears rejection. But the therapist's room becomes a space where that self is gently dismantled. You learn that vulnerability is not weakness, but an entryway to growth. When tears come, they are not breakdowns, they are openings. Modern psychodynamics sees this process as ego surrender, the point where resistance softens and the unconscious begins to breathe. To heal is to trade certainty for honesty and control for curiosity. It's not about erasing pain, but understanding it, recognizing that what once protected you may now imprison you. True therapy, like true love, asks for the same act of courage, to release the armor and trust that what's underneath can still be enough. From a deeper psychological view, gain and loss aren't moral opposites. They're two movements of the same energy. Every joy we receive is an inhale, every sorrow an exhale. Without both, the psyche suffocates. Carl Jung called this the principle of equilibrium. The mind constantly seeks balance between expansion and contraction, creation and decay. When we gain love, success, inspiration, life flows into us. When we lose, we return that energy to the world, often through grief, reflection, or renewal. In Eastern philosophy, this rhythm mirrors the breath of the universe itself, the eternal cycle of taking in and letting go. The problem is not loss, but resistance to its rhythm. To cling to joy forever is as unnatural as refusing to breathe out. The mature soul understands that living fully is not about endless gain, but about learning the art of graceful exchange. To live wisely is to lose well. Emotional maturity isn't measured by how much we win, but by how gently we let go. The art of losing lies in transforming grief into understanding, pain into perspective. When we lose a relationship, we learn the anatomy of love. When we lose a dream, we rediscover who we are without illusion. Each loss sharpens our awareness of what truly matters and teaches us that identity is not fixed, but fluid. In modern psychology, resilience is not about avoiding breakdowns. It's about bending without breaking. The most grounded people are not untouched by loss. They have simply befriended it. They know that life's beauty is inseparable from its fragility, that every ending hides the seed of a new beginning. To lose with grace is not to give up, but to give in, to the quiet wisdom that everything, even sorrow, has its own purpose. Every choice we make is also a quiet farewell. To say yes to one path means turning away from 1,000 others. In modern life, where possibilities multiply endlessly, this truth feels almost unbearable. We want both adventure and security, freedom and belonging. Yet the psyche cannot hold everything at once. Psychologists call this the paradox of choice. Too many options don't create freedom. They breed anxiety. In chasing it all, we risk having nothing deeply. Each decision asks for a small death, of alternative selves, of futures we will never live. But awareness transforms sacrifice into intention. When we consciously choose, we honor both the gain and the loss it carries. The art of living, then, is not about collecting experiences, but committing to meaning. Because when we finally accept that every yes comes with a no, our choices stop haunting us and start defining us. Loss is the mirror in which we truly see ourselves. When we lose money, we learn the value of effort. When we lose someone, we touch the depth of love. When we lose youth, we awaken to wisdom. It isn't loss that destroys us, it's the refusal to face it. In that confrontation, something tender happens. We stop chasing permanence and begin living with presence. Gain and loss, like breathing, are the natural rhythm of existence, one teaching us to reach, the other to release. The Western mind calls it acceptance. The Eastern spirit calls it enlightenment. Both lead to the same peace, understanding that life isn't meant to be held, only experienced. And if one day you stand with empty hands, know this: emptiness is not the end of the story. It's the moment before rebirth, the pause before renewal, the silence in which your truest self begins to speak.